Hello, my name's Ross Buckley. I'm a Scientia Professor and an Australian Research Council Laureate Fellow at UNSW in Sydney. Finance, technology and regulation. So it's really about how technology has been interacting with finance, and then how do you regulate the whole thing. So we go back about 160 years to the sort of mid to late 1800s, have a look at how finance and technology have danced together ever since, and they do interact very, very well. But lately, the interaction obviously has become much more powerful and much more potent, and that's proved a big challenge for regulators right around the world. The interaction between technology and finance is changing so much, and it's even changing the financial providers. Right around the world, data companies and tech companies are going into the provision of financial services because they have more information about the customers, which mean they can price the risk that the customers represent more accurately than traditional banks and finance companies. So the whole system of finance is being changed by starting with data and analysing the data rather than starting with a relationship and what the financial institution has learned from that relationship. So a number of banks in the West don't fully grasp that yet. The Chinese have grasped it very well. Ant Financial and WeChat Pay are all over it, and they've remade China's financial system as a result of this. So there's really a tectonic change underway, and that's what our book is looking at. Technology is driving a fundamental systemic change in how finance is done. Let's consider the small and medium enterprise sector. Right? That's a sector, small businesses, very poorly served in almost every financial system by traditional banks. Banks are good at lending to major corporations. They're relatively good at lending to homeowners. They're bad at lending to small businesses that don't have a lot of assets to give us security. In America now, 3 of the top 5 lenders to small businesses are not banks. They're Amazon, PayPal, Square. Amazon is perfectly placed because Amazon sees the cash flow of the businesses that sell over their platform. They see the money coming in real time. They also see the returns of the products. They see the reasons for the returns. In some ways, with their algorithms, they probably understand the small business better than the small business owner. So they are perfectly positioned to reach out to that business owner and say, would you benefit from a line of credit? We can extend this credit to you. The same with Square, which is a payments app, plugs into your smartphone. A lot of tradesmen and small business operators in the US use it. Because they have a real-time feed on cash flow, they're remarkably well positioned to analyse credit risk. So these are good examples of how it's data that is transforming finance rather than it used to be a relational business. You walked into the bank, you got to know the bank manager, the bank manager got to know you, you filled out lots of information on documents, and that all got processed. Now it's much more a real-time data business. So a new world is coming, and that's what our book is attempting to interpret, analyse, and provide the lessons for how to do it all better. So the beginning of the book is the history of finance in this field, how it has evolved, how technology has interacted with finance. We have another section on the technology, so on AI, blockchain, cloud, and big data, how those 4 factors have really empowered finance. But the latter part of the book is then what does the world do about this? How do we get finance to serve social ends and make the whole thing work efficiently and fairly? I think this book genuinely has a very wide audience, partly because there's very little in this space. There's a number of edited collections. There's not another co-authored monograph in the space, I think. It's 20 chapters. It has a very broad remit. The book basically represents our last 8 years of research that we've brought together. We've been working intensively on this since 2015. And we've boiled down the essentials. The essentials of what we've learned in the last 8 years are in this book. So it has a lot of lessons for regulators, a lot of perspectives on how do you regulate this, but it also has a very good overview of the way technology and finance are interacting, what are the important parts of the technology stack that is transforming finance, how the nature of finance itself is changing as it's being driven by data. So there's a lot in there for the finance industry, there's a lot in there for banks, there's plenty of material in there for regulators, policymakers, legislators in this space. And it actually probably works, if at a master's level, it probably works as a textbook. There's more and more FinTech, master's courses in FinTech or RegTech around the world, and because of the breadth of it, it probably works pretty well as a textbook for some of those courses, I would think. So I think it's the best thing we've ever written. It's the biggest in scope by far because FinTech is a huge canvas. It's a very broad canvas, and in 20 succinct chapters, I think we've covered most of that canvas. We could only do it because we've been working, all three of us, intensely in this area for 8 years. So the book really brings together not the normal sort of couple of years work, but a full 8 years work by 3 authors who are hopefully somewhere near the top of their game. So I have big hopes for this book. I think it stands to make a major contribution, and I think it addresses a lot of gaps in the literature that are not adequately addressed at the moment.